Well, it starts with a load of hiss.
It was the only one I didn't use automation and didn't have to do lots of arrangements as well.
In fact, it's double-tracked hiss, I think, on that.
So I just pressed fucking play and all the tape compression and all the fucking compression just created all that fucking noise and stuff. I can't remember it happening at the time. I think we were a bit pissed and stoned, me and Marcus.
Alan McGee went mental for that when he heard it. He was just going, that is the best social comment anybody's made in 20 years of music.
I mean, there aren't many Oasis songs with any sort of subconscious or otherwise elements of political dissent in there, but that was definitely one of them.
Is it worth the aggravation to find yourself a job when there's nothing worth working for?
That spoke to me as an aged has-been, let alone a sort of 16-year-old living in a council estate in Manchester.
England was in the fucking toilet, man. It was a horrible place to be.
Just personified what a lot of kids were feeling and thinking at that time.
Good tune.
The only band to get a record in the top 10 that advocates cocaine use. And it fucking amazes me how we fucking snuck that past Radio 1.
Only me and Marcus there in the mixing, which was fucking great as well. No band members around. No egos. Do what you want, you know. Turn Bowen it up rather than fucking Noel and all this sort of stuff, you know.
I like ad-libs and bits that people think, what's that fucking noise? And there's lots of stuff like that on subsequent albums. I don't think there's much of that on Definitely Maybe, apart from the hiss that Owen left on. Did Owen tell you he invented hiss? We were sort of bracing ourselves for a number fucking 35 or something. It went higher in than Live Forever. And I think at that point it was decided that we should fucking strap in the seatbelts. It's going to get fucking wild from here on in.
I think it was too Mark Boland for me. And it got even more outrageous, I think, by the time it was mixed. It was just kind of boring to me.
I wouldn't write a song like Cigarettes and Alcohol now because I think, well, you can't be ripping off T-Rex, man. It's fucking bang out of order, you know. Whereas then it was like, well, no one's ever going to fucking hear it anyway.
Yeah,
what, like 20 people at the boardwalk, you know?
There was no prejudice in the writing at all, was there, at that time?
No. I suppose if there is an influence on the lyric writing around that time, it was the sheer nonsense of I'm the Walrus, you know, because we used to, that was a very fucking big song of ours. Obviously we play it live and still do. And even though John Lennon's got this in his later days, in his solo stuff, he was quite confessional, you know, mother and all that, mother. And but in the Beatles, it was all, you know, what the fuck were they singing about? Obladi Oblada?
Yeah.
Write an entirely original song, it's not, you know, it's not easy. It's like, do anything, give me a guitar and I'll start strumming D, A and E, and already I've written Peggy Sue or Lola, the Kinks, you know, classics. It's like, well, it's not easy to write a totally original song. There's only that many chords you can do. Put them in any sequence and you can hum something over.
What Noel did, I think, was actually not trying to be too clever about it. And in so doing, he was actually being pretty damn smart, really. It's like, okay, yeah, I took it from there, I took that bit from there, and then I put them all together and made this. And this is brilliant, and you can't deny it.
I think he's had a real hard time on that because the same finger could be pointed at, you know, dozens of other bands and songwriters. The difference is they're not successful, and Noel is.
I've been called up a few times by the lawyers at Sony and been played stuff by other bands. Big charts, you know, and they've said, well, we'd have a case here. And I was like, I'm not going to sue anybody, you know. A few people have sued me, and that's, you know, that's bad karma on their behalf, but I wouldn't phone up somebody and say, you know, you've ripped off my song.
Precious few other people in the modern rock and roll age who were as honest in that sense as Noel was, and one of the few others was Kurt Cobain from Nirvana, because that's exactly how he did it as well.
I'll sing anything fucking live at any time except for Digsy's dinner. It's crap. I'm a pine chip, man.
It's rubbish. and Noel knows it is, and that's the reason it's on the album.
It's like, right, go round to yours for tea and we'll have lasagna. Let's have it. And he did it.
Fucking diddly Digsy dairy.
I don't really like it. I've never had. I fucking ate the meal.
He was once described to me as, you meet him, it's like opening a bag of monkeys.
Oh, weird. I love you. Oh, yeah, I get that, man.
And that's exactly what he's like.
He's a funny fella.
Chaos.
I'm just there to fucking take the drugs and fucking drink all that ale.
Brilliant.
He's a
Brilliant
fabulous
songwriter.
singer, songwriter, amazing.
But he sings these songs with possibly the most offensive, vicious lyrics about kids and women and fucking his mates and his next door neighbour. He fucking hates everybody.
So one night, fucking we're off our cakes, fucking nose on drums. So I'm just singing, guess what I had for my tea, guess what I had for my tea. It was lasagna! And we're just going off our cake, Noel's laughing. Quiggy's on bass, Noel's laughing his tits off.
It was lasagna, lasagna. He's screaming lasagna for ages and I'm flailing about on the fucking drums.
Noel goes, what's that tune you fucking about lasagna? Fucking, do I know?
Went away and wrote, I had the tune.
Noel goes, I've got this tune, fucking, it's got lasagna in it, could I call it Digsy's Dinner? Go on, son.
And he was fucking very, very upset at it.
I think it's the worst song Oasis have ever written. I fucking hate it with a vengeance.
And he wrote one called Noel's Nose or something, didn't he? Childish.
No, that song, right, it's bought me many rounds. It's got me drunk in so many places. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Oh, you're Digsy. Oh, yeah, I get that.
It's got one line in it though that for me just makes the whole song.
These could be the best days of our lives.
Yeah. No matter what you think about the song, maybe a bit of quirk or a little piano solo.
Oh, there's a piano in it,
It's just all wiped away with that one line. Is the song for me.
I remember reading in the Japanese version of the CD. They have the lyrics printed in Japanese and they have it in their interpretation of them in English. It's what's singing for Digsy's Dinner. Fucking stunning. No, I said, God, who is Digsy? I was like, do you know what? It's a question he fucking asks himself every morning when he gets up on the floor.
Oh, yeah, it's Digsy, lasagna, fuck off.
For me, personally, it's Liam's voice. That's the Oasis sound. Anyone can crank up the guitars and sound like, wow, you sound big. But without the right voice behind you, then you're not going to sound that big.
The whole thing about Oasis is when we very first seen him, as I said before, on the first gig, he had sunglasses on. When I first met him, he had the same walk. With me, Liam's always been the real deal.
I mean, the lasting impression I had, I guess, of that first gig was Liam, because they were crowded onto this really small stage, and logically, the singer stands at the front, and even if Liam had been standing at the back, he would have been the person that you looked at.
He's a total pro when it comes to singing. He's probably not a total pro about getting himself there or anything like that, but once he goes very well.
He has a very Mancunian sort of delivery, which at the time, the bands that were coming out of Manchester, they were, they weren't singing in, fake American accents and, put on accents. The singers used to sing as they talked.
He was 20, 21 years old, and he'd never had a proper job in his life, do you know what I mean, for what I can know of it anyway.
I just feel the fucking bollocks, man, Every time I fucking sing, I feel fucking really good.
He was very characteristic and distinctive from the off, from the first time I heard him sing, but certainly as the band got more recognition and more fans, he felt more comfortable about going his own way.
I was listening to a lot of demos recently from that period, and Liam was, his singing's really gentle. It's not at all what it's like, but he developed fast as well. But he started off and he was almost angelic at times.
He can put nuances in another way, you know. Live Forever is such a classic example of him just doing a straightforward ballad in quite a touching way.
I've never held a microphone in my entire life. It feels weird. It doesn't feel comfortable. I've always either leaned on it or my hands behind my back. And the reason I do that is because I get more power out of the singing. If I held it like that, I'd feel like a bit of a fucking... I don't know, a bit weird.
I think he's always had it sort of just slouching and looking up and the way he does, yeah.
Again, that immediately struck me from the outset. Well, the reason he's not moving is because he doesn't have to, or he believes he doesn't have to. The way that he's singing is so physical, you know, he's just wrenching this sound out from his legs, from his throat.
It's just like holding notes, you know, and certain things. I don't like to go, is it my imagination? It's to me boring, you know.
We were doing a radio session up in Manchester, and we were doing cigarettes and alcohol. It went out live on the radio, I think, and he done the sunshine bit for the first time. And when we heard it back, he went, he didn't like it at first, and he was sort of, I don't know about that. And it seemed like within seconds, McGee was on the phone, and he went, "Where did the sunshine bit come from?" And I went, "I don't know." He went, "Tell me, keep it. It's fucking great." And of course now he fucking does it on everything. Oh, yeah.
Even when he's talking to you.
Yeah. We're going out for a pint.
I think he's a pretty unique singer, really, in rock and roll terms.
You know, he was one of the rock voices of the last sort of 10, 20 years.
He has no fear. If he's got to go from this note to that note, he'll go from this note to that note.
It's the sign of a great album when it's got an album track that wasn't a single that's everyone goes on about. That's like, you've always got to have one of them for the fans.
Apparently they'd done it. I don't know whether that was part of the album sessions, but I've heard that that was the vocal, and they had to kind of build stuff around it. Or, you know, when you're trying to get a track right, it was like, well, that's a keeper, you know, and it is. It's amazing.
Slide Away was written whilst they were doing the album sessions, so the first time I heard it was when they were well into recording Definitely Maybe.
I'd been on tour, and we'd actually phoned Johnny Marr and asked him, could we borrow some of his guitars, because we didn't have that many. And he sends down this Les Paul, and I swear to you, I took it out of the fucking case, and I had a bedroom above one of the live rooms, and it turned up in the morning, and I took it to my bedroom. I picked it out of the case and I sat down, and the fucking song wrote itself.
Best ever vocal delivery, I think, that Liam's ever got in his life.
Fantastic vocal.
Amazing. Like, means it.
It's a good tune, man. I like singing it, you know.
I've heard that they did, was it Married with Children, on Coyley's bed, in his bedroom, you know.
Well, the equipment was appalling, wasn't it, you know?
It wasn't even a 4
Out of
track.
8 tracks, you know, 3 weren't working, it was, you know, it was that time to settle.
There's no need for you to say you're sorry. Goodbye, I'm going home.
I think the whole vibe of the song would have been lost if you tried to recreate it in a posh 24-track studio. You know, the whole spirit of the song.
It works. And when it works, it's charming, and when it's charming, it goes on the record, you know.
If it's about anything, it's about your girlfriend. Not mine, but, you know, it's about people's girlfriends.
But just the sound that he got out of that guitar, it's like, well, what's that? What's the guitar you're playing? What's the acoustic?
The guitar that's actually played on, the Gretsch Country Gent, actually is a Stone Roses guitar. It used to belong, it's John's Country Gent that was round at your house.
Hey, it's great how they got this really dry sound. It's probably because he's got a fluffy duvet or something, you know.
Because Liam was on he was on the turn with his vocal at that point as well, with you saying it's quite a sweet vocal. Well, he used to have a really sweet voice.
I remember everyone downstairs playing Frustration, and we were going up the stairs to record this song. And we sat on his bed and recorded it. It was done pretty quick. It took us about half an hour.
And it will be nice.
And it's great to have something on the album that is a link between when they were demoing with Coily and the finished album.
Genuinely believe that people would buy it, but not on the scale that it did. I mean, that just went beyond me.
If you know you've got certain songs that you can hear your mum singing before they've even started for a rock and roll band, then you know you're on a winner.
The only band, I think, who were comparable to Oasis, and obviously comparisons have been made quite a lot with Sex Pistols, but Sex Pistols didn't have songs that were as good as Oasis.
Definitely Maybe came around 94, 95 and went, wake up, the decade's on.
I think we stole the crown that the Stone Roses left up there for grabs as such.
We seemed to catch the mood of the mid-90s, you know, between 93 to 98.
I'd say Definitely Maybe and Nevermind by Nirvana were the two most important albums of the 90s in terms of what they achieved and who they inspired and what they were about, what it said.
It's probably the best debut album then, isn't it, really? Or in my book. And I'm not biased.
Young people were going out and getting into clothes and buying records and going to gigs again. The live music thing fucking went through the roof in the 90s, you know?
All of a sudden our office got deluged with demo tapes, guitar band demo tapes from all over the world, you know. So that was one way of judging the influence it had.
I think it's just a great album all in all. It is gone down in history, really, isn't it?
It's timeless, you know, any piece of good art is timeless, and I think that album will always stand.
It was all great, you know, even though my own band at the time, the Stone Roses, by the way, lest we forget, was going shit, you know, and there was a lot of trouble and all that. But every time we made up with the Oasis lot, then it was just fucking game on, you know what I mean, and having it large, and very large.
The album's like fucking very abrasive, and it's not even well produced. Do you know what I mean? But the normal fucking 9 to 5, all the people who fucking pay taxes, they're not asked about the production, are they? Really? It's the sentiments and the melody of the song.
There isn't one track on there that you know, that I want to sort of, you know, forward and get on to the next one.
Without Definitely Maybe, without those first Oasis records, then I think it's safe to say that which became known as Britpop, it wouldn't have happened in the way that everybody understands it now.
It was a really punk rock record. I mean, it's by far, I think, the best Oasis record, and I think probably the band probably would agree with that as well.
I don't think it was that good anyway. I think it was all right.
You know when you plug your guitar in, right, and you go, fucking hell, make a load of noise. It is that simple, isn't it? It really is that simple. 3 chords. Rock and roll. Tell a million people, oh, fuck off, yeah, this is all right, isn't it? You know what I mean? But imagine if it's not. Hence, Definitely Maybe.
Yeah, no, I love it, you know. And not only musically, because for what it meant to people and what it still means to people.
It's just rock and roll is the line, I think, that maybe is what the album's about. It is just rock and roll, but that just is an enormous, enormous just.